Going to transition into the next part of the conversation. We'll still be looking at everything that has been touched on, hearing from investors, hearing from people who are practicing and getting to learn from one another. The next panel discussion is on lithium and beyond, looking at Rwanda's critical minerals advantage. Please, once again, with a warm round of applause as I invite our panelists, please let's escort them with a huge hand clap. We're going to start with Vasilii Savin with Rwanda Mines and Petroleum Gas Board. Yes, you're welcome. We have Simon Rollason with Aterian PLC. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause. There he is, there he is. Very delighted to have you with us, sir. And lastly, we have Shane Ryan, CEO, Trinity Metals. Let's also appreciate him as he comes. Amazing, amazing. I think we'll just be building on the conversation that James has had, and we'll be hearing from our panelists. But before we start, how many of us here in the room have had any interaction since the day began, since this morning up until now with lithium? By a show of hands. If you're confident that you've interacted with anything lithium, please. I can see 1, 2, less than 10 people. How many of us have used our phones? By a show of hands. How many of us have used any form of transportation, whether it's electric or even drove here? By a show of hands. So it's all of us. So we have all of us really interacted with lithium, and that is the conversation that we're going to be having. And it's clear that it is now a force that is powering the future. We'll be focusing on lithium, but we'll also be looking at other critical minerals that we have within the Rwandan border. And I want us to just understand by knowing the role that each and every person here plays. If you can start with introducing yourself, but in your introduction, share the role that you're playing in advancing Rwanda's mining sector. I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to meet you today and join the panel. My name is Dr. Vasilii Savin. I am a geophysical expert in Rwanda Mines, Petroleum and Gas Board, and I am one of the leaders conducting the National Mineral Exploration Program in Rwanda. So I contribute in exploration program, in capacity building, and finally mineral sector growing in Rwanda. And I like this job, I like the country, and I hope my job is important also for local community. Thank you.
Thank you. Simon?
Hi, good morning. My name is Simon Rollason. I've actually had the pleasure of working with Vasilii in the past, so I know he's a very good geophysicist. I'm the CEO of a company called Aterian Resources, and we have a holding operating company here called Eastinco. Our focus really with Eastinco in the past has been on exploration, initially looking at the tantalum opportunity, but more recently we moved towards what is the lithium opportunity within Rwanda. We had for a year and a half the joint venture down in the southern province with Rio Tinto, and we'll talk a little bit more about that during the course of the panel.
Shane?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Shane Ryan. Australian geologist, lucky enough to be the COO of Trinity Metals. Trinity Metals is Rwanda's largest private sector employer, and we're very proud of that. We operate 3 mines, one at Rutongo, one at Nakabingo, and one out in the eastern province in Musha. They're tin, tantalum, and tungsten mines primarily. Nakabingo is the largest tungsten mine in Africa, and Musha and Rutongo make up the second largest tin asset in Africa. We also hold a large lithium development project at Ntunga, which sits out in the eastern province in Musha as well, and I'm sure I'll talk about that at some point today as well.
Yeah, indeed, we'll be getting into more into that. Vasilii, to even start with you, knowing the current global interest that there is in lithium as well as other critical minerals, maybe if you can draw for us a picture, what position does Rwanda have currently, and how much influence, how much potential do we even have to compete globally within this space?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it is a really important question for Rwanda. And first of all, when we talk about lithium and the broader family of battery metals, Rwanda is not competing on the size of deposits. For example, yesterday our colleague Professor Stanislav Volkovich noted that more bigger and more cheaper deposits of lithium are available, are known in brines of Chile and Argentina. But here in Rwanda, we compete on something equally important things, such as low above ground risk, strong geological foundation, and a strong national strategy to integrate into future supply chains. Let me discuss these points, 3 points, in more detail, because each one is a significant contribution in the final position of Rwanda in the worldwide market and supply chain. So, geologically, Rwanda is located within a well-known LCT pegmatite province. That province has supported tin, tantalum, and niobium production for decades. In the recent years, we have a significant joint work of academia and active exploration, which has confirmed lithium and beryllium-bearing pegmatites in several belts in Rwanda. This is the first point. So, for example, the findings at Musha mine, by Trinity Metals, discoveries made by Rio Tinto across number of areas in the western Rwanda, results of drilling reported by Estinka company for HCK concession, and of course the results of the national exploration program conducted by RMB. At the moment, we're still at early stage in terms of resource definition, but the combination of mineralized intervals in boreholes, the strong, clear structural controls, they give us a credible pathway to lithium and beryllium discoveries. So for industrial, it was the second point, For industrial perspectives, Rwanda has invested significantly in roads, in power reliability, and in mineral processing capacity. For example, we have in Rwanda modern, already operated refineries for critical minerals such as tin and gold. And this is an example and evidence that downstream processing is not a theoretical ambition for Rwanda, but this is a proven capability here. So this is for Rwanda, as for landlocked country, this is a major advantage, and this is a right way in my mind. So the third point is related with institutions, institutional position. and conditions. Institutionally, Rwanda, in Rwanda, the mineral sector is a national priority. The regulatory network is being continuously modernized, and a strong partnership with, for example, the European Union related with critical mineral raw material supply, and the ongoing discussion with the US, all of them are related with transparency and reliable, traceable supply chains. So, taking this into account, the institutional support is significant, and it is affecting the successful of Rwanda. So, I would say, as a conclusion, that Rwanda is not yet a volume supplier, volume player in lithium, but the country is progressively building the geological knowledge, the infrastructure, and the institutional credibility to find its place to become a reliable node in the supply chains of battery metals in global worldwide market.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
We'll even come to that because, as you said, Rwanda, the government in itself is keen and is active in putting in place the right infrastructure, the right tools to make sure that we manage to tap into the potential that we have within the country, but still it cannot do it alone. You know, that's where collaboration, looking at also the role of private sector and other players. So we'll come to that. Simon, looking at what even Vasilii started with saying, the potential that Rwanda has and comparing to the output is not there yet. And also Rwanda, we still have a long way to go comparing to also other global powerhouses. Building on that, we've seen Aterian PLC recently announced the discovery of high-grade lithium here in Rwanda. What does that signify for the future of lithium industry? And how does it reinforce Rwanda's broader advantage within the mining sector?
Okay, there's a few things there to sort of unpack and have a go at. I think the interesting thing that we discovered with our work...
Could you move your mic closer to you?
There we go, is that better? I think the interesting thing that we sort of discovered with our work on Rio Tinto down in the south was the abundance of pegmatites, but that's just Rwanda full stop, and the Kabaran belt is a very rich area for pegmatites, and if you find the right chemical sort of signatures on these pegmatites, then you have that opportunity for lithium and other rare metals. But you know, we had the one hole on the project down there that returned a pretty high grade. There was a 7-meter interval at 2.1% lithium, and that included an interval of 3.5 meters at 3.2% lithium. And I think you got to remember that one intersection doesn't make a mine. You know, there's so much more that still has to be achieved to get to that point where a company can sort of say this makes financial sense to actually progress it into a mining environment. So you've got to look at the resource, the size, the scale, the grade, the economics, the metallurgy, the infrastructure, the power, the water. So there's many, many different elements. So, you know, we're on that early part of the process with the HCK project and the result that we had down there. Trinity is obviously further along with their work on the lithium, and we'll probably hear about that now. But I think what it shows is that it affirmed the model that, you know, Rwanda is potentially, and East Africa in the Kabaran belt, is a new lithium frontier. But, you know, following on from what Vasilii said, you know, it's going to take some time for these things to be fully understood and appreciated. The financing needed further down the line, and it was part of the earlier discussion and the comments afterwards. For a scalable lithium operation, it involves a tremendous amount of capital investment. And to have that level of investment, you need to make sure that you have all of the work streams properly conducted and signed off. So you're going to have compliant resources. You're going to have strong metallurgical testing to get that level of investment. And, you know, in Rwanda, with the smaller artisanal operators, you know, there's always the issue that they don't have access to capital. It's because of the risk profile of the lenders. You know, you can't expect them to have a mineral resource here. But going back to the work that's been done and the identification of high-grade lithium, I think another significant point to remember here is the presence of spodumene in pegmatites. You get a variety of lithium-bearing minerals. Spodumene is the ideal one that explorers will be looking for because it has the highest theoretical grade of lithium within the mineral. It can be up to 8%. Your other minerals, and you know, I know through my travels around Rwanda in the past, I heard sort of people talking about they'd found amblygonite and maybe a little lepidolite. But these are lower inherent lithium grade minerals. And the benefit that you have with something like spodumene as well is that it recovers well. You can get a good grade out of it. The refiners tend to prefer a spodumene concentrate to other species of lithium mineral when they're making their lithium carbonates or their hydroxides. And I think the fact that you have spodumene in Rwanda is very positive, and I think that's a key takeaway from the work that we've done so far. But you know, if you look at it as a critical mineral group of elements that you're looking at in Rwanda, you know, Rwanda has always been considered a bit of a critical mineral hub anyway because of the tantalum, the tin, the tungsten. Is lithium going to be a significant add-on? Well, it would be nice that if it is, but I think any lithium production of any scale is going to be years down the line from now because it takes a lot of work and a lot of investment to build a proper infrastructure. And the advantage that you have in Rwanda is the policies already understand that there is a necessity for value-added production within the country, whether it be the first level of concentration on a lithium mine or taking it up the next level to sort of refining it into the hydroxide or a carbonate. From the standpoint that even if you produced a lithium concentrate, and it could be like a spodumene concentrate with lithium around about 6-7% on the high scale, the value of that is probably in today's terms about $1,300 a ton. Now, if you have to ship that to a refiner, you know, it's going to cost you $10,000 minimum to ship that container in the first place. So, you know, half your container is going to be offsetting the shipping costs, and you've still got to cover your production costs. So the more that you can have in country of that refining, the better. And I think, you know, Rwanda as the critical minerals hub in East Africa has demonstrated that through the refineries that you've already established here. You've got the tin smelter, you've got the gold refinery, and you've got the tantalum refinery. And I think that just sends out a very positive indication for people that, you know, Rwanda's policies are moving in the right direction. Not there yet, but, you know, the intent is there. And then to think about the idea of a lithium mine, you know, you're going to have something of quite high tonnage and grade for it to work here. And if there is something, and maybe Trinity, you know, we don't know what, the cat's out the bag on that one yet. If they have something and they can have that capability to process and refine within country, it will allow the opportunity for smaller deposits then to feed into that refinery.
We'll even come back, as you said, Rwanda has the policy frameworks, looking at the regulatory environment. We'll also come to know what more would an investor, would the private sector also like to recommend. Shane, I would like you to build on what Simon has said. He has asked the question, is lithium a significant add-on? And looking at the focus right now, the world is focusing on lithium, and one might wonder, won't it even overshadow other beyond critical minerals that we have? So how can we strike a balance between the two? And also just give us an update when you're looking at the Ntunga lithium exploration currently?
Yeah, okay, thanks very much. I'll start by saying that the cat will stay in the bag in terms of our Ntunga lithium project. We won't be releasing too much on that today, but we'll certainly talk about it. In terms of lithium overshadowing Rwanda's other opportunities, I think that today's been a great step with the release of the pitch book, which has been a great step forward from the earlier pitch book that came out at the start of the year. This one is accompanied by a lot more data from what I've seen, and that's a huge step forward. But I still feel as though Rwanda is missing an opportunity in terms of its critical mineral strategy. It's become pretty commonplace around the globe now, particularly where I come from in Australia, for critical mineral strategies to be clearly defined and set out. We talk a lot about critical minerals in Rwanda. The government, RDB, RMB do some terrific work in this space, but we're still yet to have a designated, allocated critical mineral strategy, a roadmap or a blueprint that we can go to, and more importantly that external investors can go to look at and see, okay, what are the goals and ambitions of Rwanda? Where do they want to be? How do we get there? What's the time frame for getting there? So the critical mineral strategy is a crucial thing, and it really helps set out the goals, and some of which are, moving smarter and faster. Rwanda is very, very good at this. We know this because we operate in the country. People outside don't necessarily know that. So if we can demonstrate that through the critical mineral strategy, I think that's crucial. And when I say moving smarter and faster, I mean going from an exploration lease to a mining lease. How quick can we do that? We spoke about incentives earlier. Is there incentives for that with critical mineral strategy? I think that's crucial. I'll give the example of our friends at Rio. They recently just terminated a lithium project in Serbia. That project was reported to be in the range of $4 billion. It had been in the works for a very, very long time. The reason that hasn't been progressed is because of regulation and poor transparency with the government. So that's very important. Strategy also maximises investment. It makes it very clear for people coming into the country where and how Rwanda want investment, the type of investment we want. The pitch book is a big step forward for that. I still think we're missing a further opportunity that can feed into the strategy, and that is a critical minerals prospectus. So it doesn't only look at the ground that's available to be taken up now, it's presenting the operators that are already in the country operating. What are they doing, how they're doing it, and what are their goals to get there? It's a government responsibility to drive investment in industry. This industry needs investment, and we need the help to get it. So the strategy will be a big step for that. A really big, important step for the critical mineral strategy, and we've touched on it here today, is value chain enhancement. So by that I mean, it's not about digging the mineral out of the ground, it's about taking that one step forward. And I don't even mean just refining. Like, there's plenty of opportunity in the renewable energy space now, particularly in the battery space. What are we doing, or what can we do, and what does Rwanda want to see in terms of manufacturing after we've taken the raw minerals out of the ground? So I'll use the example of Australia. Prior to coming back to Rwanda, I was COO for a vanadium mining company. Vanadium is the next big thing in terms of energy storage around the world. It's a very interesting technology. And these redox flow batteries, which picture 3 shipping containers stacked together, that's the size of these batteries. Great technology. They're used for grid scale energy storage. So Australia is now looking at not only mining the vanadium, which they have plenty of, but the critical mineral strategy is very clear about progressing that final product into a battery. And that's the sort of thing the strategy can look at. And last but not least, it's, we've spoken about it with the Professor earlier today, research and ESG, it's crucial. We're not going to entice that investment and build that strategy without building our research capabilities, and we've got some amazing talent coming through Rwanda, and Trinity pride ourselves on accessing that talent and building them up. ESG, I'm very proud to say that Trinity has ESG policy and projects that outweigh some projects I've worked in Australia. And without that, and without a clear guideline and a strategy around that, we will struggle. So I think it's a step that's being missed, and I note the CEO's not here at the moment, but I would love to see Mining Week next year be the launch for Rwanda Critical Mineral Strategy. I think that would be a great platform.
I'm curious, like even still building on what you have just shared, I'm curious to know what a balanced critical mineral portfolio would look like. And even looking at the portfolio from even your past experience as an operator with diversified mineral assets, what would you say Rwanda's strongest cooperative is currently?
At the moment, it's 3 tins. There's no 3T. Sorry, there's no question about that. As I said, tungsten is particularly strong in market at the moment. Rwanda is very fortunate to be endowed with those minerals. And let's not forget, the minerals that are in the ground, they belong to Rwanda and they belong to the people of Rwanda. They don't belong to me at Trinity or Rio Tinto or Aterian. And we want to see that Rwanda benefits from those minerals. But definitely the 3Ts, for sure. Lithium has potential. There's no question about that. But we're a long way from being able to put a stake in the ground and say that we've got an operating lithium mine in Rwanda. And, there's plenty of examples around the world where it's a bit of a slow burn. We've touched on the price point for lithium at the moment. It's depressed and it's not going to entice anyone to jump into lithium holus bolus other than exploration. You need to slow the roll and think about what you've got. The second part of the question which you asked me was around Ntunga. We haven't drilled in 25 at Ntunga. What we've done is sit back and consolidate. Because of the price point, we've got time on our side. So we've actually gone through a whole bunch of met testing, which, as Simon touched on, it's one thing to know you've got the resource in the ground and you get to a certain point as a geologist where you think, okay, I'm comfortable with that resource at the minute. Now we need to turn our mind to how do we mine it and how do we process it. They're the key things with lithium. Lithium processing is very, very energy needy, and it's a very, very tough process to process lithium. So I'll give an example of where I come from. I think Australia produced something like 90,000 tonnes of lithium concentrate in 24 or something like that. Literally 98% of that was not refined in Australia. So they're a company they're a country that's very advanced in their mining maturity. They've got critical mineral strategies for every state and the federal policy. They've got huge incentives for critical mineral processing and supply chain additions. They're not there yet. So that sort of puts in perspective, and again, the critical mineral strategy for a company like Trinity and new companies entering the market is crucial to see what's the vision, what are we trying to do. Vision 2050, Rwanda is amazing at setting those milestones. I think we need to get a little bit better at setting the roadmap to getting there.
And Simon, even building on that, looking at the appetite that we have within lithium in itself, building on also some of examples that he has shared currently, even striking a balance between the attention that we're giving to lithium as well as the other critical minerals. Is there a risk that we're currently seeing investors over-prioritizing lithium? And how best could we approach this, knowing that currently lithium is needed, it's a priority still?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hype around lithium. And that just plays into the way the world is moving towards electrification. So you can understand that if there is discovery of lithium within a country or within a province, there is some excitement. It generates some news, and it does hopefully bring in investment into the exploration that will open up the door to discovery of other minerals. And I think what Rwanda needs to look at initially is to concentrate on the tantalum, the tungsten, and the tin mining and the processing, particularly on the small-scale miners, to see how they can improve those levels of mining efficiency, supported by safety, of course, but also the processing to maximize the value that's coming out of these particular small-scale mines that are already here. The pegmatites that host the lithium are the same pegmatites that are hosting the coltan and the tin that are being mined from the weathered portions. So, it's an interesting one actually, and it's quite a conundrum in a sense, because you want to promote lithium in Rwanda as an exploration target, and you want investors to come in to explore and potentially develop lithium opportunities. But most of the prime targets already have a company above them mining out the weathered portion, which is where you're going to have the coltan hosted, and the lithium is going to be principally down in the bedrock. So there's a few challenges there. But I've been reading through some of the information about the geology of Rwanda, just sort of refreshing really before this conversation, and it's like, well, what other minerals are there in Rwanda that could be of importance? And it all feeds into the drive towards electrification. You're in a metamorphic belt, so there's graphite. We know there's graphite, but is it the right type of graphite? Is it amorphous or is it flake graphite, which is the key one to be looking for? But then you have a similar problem to what you may face with the lithium, in the fact that the basic on-site mine processing will not produce a product that has sufficient value for it to be exported. So you would have to then have some level of refinery within the country. So there's other opportunities, and Vasilii probably knows a little bit more about the rare earths and stuff, but I'm not sure if that's really a primary target or if it's just a nice byproduct that could be recovered. I don't know.
I think we'll be coming to Vasilii as he sheds more light on that. Right after this question, we'll be opening the floor to questions. So please prepare yourself. We'll be coming to you in just a few moments. I mean, Vasilii, you can add on to that and also just sharing how is Rwanda or even RMB from your perspective ensuring investor confidence while also avoiding speculative, extractive, short-term investors, looking at the extent of risks that Shane and Simon have mentioned.
Thank you for the question. This is a really important question for investors who comes and look for investment opportunity. First of all, Rwanda Mines Petroleum and Gas Board for recent years involves international quote reliable reporting and exploration methodology. So we try to make a capacity building of our junior staff, because this is a first problem we face. There is a good education, but experience is a gap. So we make a capacity building. We follow the international codes. Sometimes we discuss to use some REC or JERC code, but we try to follow and deviate between them, taking into account the local possibilities, financial capacity, and local geological and exploration conditions. So the next is to provide investors with reliable code-compliant reports. And before, why we do not have pitch books for a few years before 2025? First of all, it was a pandemic time, of course, but also it was a lack of new data sets, especially code reliable. And the management of the country understands this, and it is a strong position of RMB to work with code reliable procedures and do everything carefully and transparent for investors to be a reliable partner for them. So as for one of the leaders of the project for exploration, also we try to involve as many methods, exploration methods as possible to collect much data to find the best locations for further exploration or mining. Makes sense for different stages of exploration. And we use several geophysical methods which work very well in the geological and weathering conditions in Rwanda, because when we talk about the critical minerals, we talk about pegmatites. Pegmatites, they have a big advantage when we talk about LCT pegmatite type. They're a mix of tantalum, niobium, tin, and lithium minerals, including sometimes beryllium. So when we look for example, pegmatite, we face a clay material. We meet a clay material which is significantly contrasted in terms of physical properties to the host rocks. And this is a very favorable condition for geophysics. And we use it very well, and it works so productively here in Rwanda. And also geochemical surveys, geological mapping, and further stage is drilling, but it is financial big funds required for this step, so sometimes we do not have this fund and we rely on the investors to continue our exploration program after the pitching area in the pitch book. So this is a strategy, and I agree with colleagues that the national critical mineral strategy is an important way forward, and from my responsibility, I will do my best to work with my colleagues at RMB to follow this. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to open the floor to questions. Do we have any contribution? Do you have any person who'd like to maybe ask or share what has stood out for you, your personal experience? Okay. There's someone? Oh, there's a hand? Okay, please, if you could kindly pass the microphone. Please do stand, tell us your name, and try keep your question or contribution short.
Okay, my name is Victor Dennis. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about regulations. Well, the regulation is one of the key to attract investors. So in this area of regulation, we have REMA, but at the same time, well, within educating our local population, there is a need of more to put on that rather than well concentrate on some people who have got the minerals. Also, some people who want to invest somewhere, it need even some, even the local population should have an idea to know to remove the risk. That's according to my experience in the UK in the area of industrial pharmacology. So then local people, we used to teach local people more to know about it. To know the safety, to remove the risk, and thereby within that the teams of the local blood and to go in high universities, and then within the start part to teach them locally in training whereby the investors they can say, well, if I put my money there, if I invest, then there is no risk. Also risk to our population, because risk to our population as well of investors. That's the one. And I might say the geochemical is very important as we want. So we need that's where we need the geochemical to be our government also to invest in that, because if we want to refinalize it, it is critical. We have the critical minerals. So in that area, they fund also our government to look about it. And then it will also attract some investors from outside to invest within that, because the government have took also the first footprint within to remove that obstacles. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. Do you have any other contribution?
I think it's close to lunch.
It is. I can already smell what is being prepared. We have 2 hands here at the front.
My name is King Douglas. I had a question. My first one is, has Rwanda positioned itself as a reliable, conflict-free supplier of critical minerals? Like what partnerships or skill sets that believe like young Rwandan entrepreneurs or the youth could contribute in this? So like we should build now like to engage like meaningfully to to companies like Tinto or Aterian or Trinity Metals. My second question is, so given like Rwanda's renewed focus on critical minerals, it's like after the Rio Tinto and Aterian decision, what business or innovation capabilities do you see as most needed to strengthen the country's exploration ecosystem? And how can young professionals like in different skills like finance or consultancy contribute to this?
Okay. Any particular person you'd want to answer the question? Shane or Simon?
So for the second one about the Rio Tinto Aterian, I think that's Shane.
And the first one, maybe Simon, you can look at that.
Yeah, I think if you could just summarize the question once more, please.
Given Rwanda's renewed focus on critical minerals after the Rio Tinto and Aterian decision, like what business or innovation capabilities do you see as most needed to strengthen the country's exploration ecosystem? And how can young professionals like with different skills, like finance or consulting or entrepreneurship experience contribute to these gaps?
I think in any organization, it's not, you have to think of every organization as organic. So anyone who comes on at a junior level, it goes through the various training processes and it's encouraged. In some cases, you may find there aren't the skills in country, and so forth, you have to bring those skills in. But most companies would set up a sort of skill transference program where you are transferring the skills to particularly the younger sort of generation, and succession planning, so that if you have a foreign manager in a position at a certain period in time, succession will sort of dictate that within a period of time, that becomes a position then held by a Rwandan geologist or mining engineer. So those are quite common, and they occur throughout the world, so there's nothing new there at all. But you know what we saw with Rio Tinto, obviously they are bringing in exploration methods and skills that haven't been deployed in Rwanda before. And we had 2 young geologists who probably had like one and a half years worth of experience. They went on to the exploration team with Rio Tinto, and I've been working with them around the country. And the knowledge that they have learnt and the philosophy of the exploration program and the tools that they can now use is tremendous. And it's that sort of benefit that you get, because those 2 geologists will then go on to sort of more senior positions in the exploration departments, and they will be able to pass that knowledge and transference onto the junior incoming people. So I think there are opportunities, but I think what I see in Rwanda as a bit of a crying shame is that you do have a lot of graduates who are coming out with, I think there were 3,000 mining engineers mentioned this morning, but there's certainly not 3,000 mining engineer roles. And I think, with the university here, you're going to be giving people a good not practical, but theoretical education of first principles. But in reality, you need to take that into the operational production environment to fully appreciate what those core theories you've learnt at university really mean. And, I think people are going to have to travel a little bit to work on mines where you can gain that experience, because in Rwanda, that level of sort of modern mining practices is limited to only a few operations, unfortunately. But that will change with time, of course. But people should go out and travel the world. As I'm a geologist, and I've used that sort of education as a platform for me to travel all around the world, looking at different things, different projects, different commodities. And people should use that education to to that end.
Vasilii can touch on the first question.
Yeah, I am ready to contribute a bit, but could you comment also for the second question first to continue explanation of Simon? I have been working in Rwanda since 2015, almost 10 years, and I have observed progressively growing the geological sector, mineral sector in Rwanda. So in 2015, when I came the first time in Rwanda, it was a beginning of the way. It was not the first year of exploration or mining activities in Rwanda, but the sector was so poor comparing to the international standards or my worldwide experience. But now we can see, we come to the some procedures, some standards, and this is really first step to for further growing. And the second important thing, as it is mentioned in the question, it is internship, it is capacity building of the staff, because when people face the real mining or exploration project, they learn much more than theoretically they were able to learn in the university or in the college. So it is a very important step, and I know many private companies, including PowerM, for example, Simon's Aterian, they involve internship students to get some experience, to continue working with them, and this is a good practice, and it is a worldwide practice, and I'm happy to see this approach also in Rwanda. For the first question, in Rwanda, there is regulation when a company applies for exploration or mineral license, they have to provide ESG report, environmental, social, and governance study report, including assessment of the impact future mining or exploration activities for the population, for the nature, environment, and mentioning the program or business plan, what they are going to do with those impact to affect less local community, to involve local community in the trainings and buildings of their knowledge about the mining activities, safety, and other stuff. So it is already going on, yeah, but the quality of those reports will grow with the generation of specialists. So now we have maybe the second generation of specialists working with such kind of assessments. ESG, it is not so common practice in Rwanda. It was not a common practice just a few years ago, before pandemic time, for example. But now it comes, we follow this standard, and as many reports will be completed, more strategic and more reliable programs will be proposed for the local communities, for companies applying for license. Yeah, it is a good practice, and I hope it helps local communities to understand each other together with companies coming to their land. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll have one more question, but I'd also like to hear just Shane's contribution to this. But also considering that the whole perception of mining is it's a very technical field, but also the question that he's raised, we need strategists, we need entrepreneurs, we need innovators. So encouraging young people who are not necessarily mining experts, technicians.
Yeah, I think to answer the question directly, there's hard and there's soft skills. Mining definitely needs hard skills. There's a shortage of surveyors, metallurgists, geologists. Mining engineering is an interesting space in this country. It's not like mining engineering in other parts of the world. So we tend to bring those guys in internships and build them up, and that's what we do with everything on our sites anyway. In terms of the broader spectrum, the strategy and the business thinking, safety is a big area, which is a huge opportunity in Rwanda to develop into that space. And there's some guys here that are developing, very young guys that are developing through interesting AI technology around the safety space. So that's really great. The other big area that is lacking in the country is surprisingly training at that work-based level. So Trinity currently, I think we've run 11,000 training courses over the last 18 months. We struggle to find good, solid local trainers who can come on and work with us full time. So, you know, it's those sort of spaces that feed in. It's not just the technical areas. As a geologist, I really do enjoy the technical areas, but I recognise that as a business, we need to be broader, and strategy, business, finance at an operating level for a mine site is crucial. And we're learning that as we move through our various business planning stages. So finance, training, safety, all of those fields are very important.
Okay, thanks. Last question.
Thank you. My name is Patrick, and my question is addressed to Mr. Simon. If I understood you correctly, you mentioned that Aterian is a bit reluctant to pursue the lithium deposits in the pegmatite, and mainly due to the logistical challenges that goes with processing lithium. You mentioned, for example, that the price per ton is $1,300, and most of that goes into the transportation. But if we look at the ongoing trends today, we see that there's an increase in EV cars. There's new iPhones coming every year, and all of them need iPhones. So isn't that an incentive enough for a company like Aterian to pursue those pegmatite veins, those lithium deposits, isn't it? And if not on the magnitude of Aterian, is it an incentive enough for a smaller scale mine to actually pursue those veins? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take last question from this side of the room, but only if you keep it 30 seconds short. There's the mic.
Thank you so much. My name is Stephen Mwakesi. I'm from Kenya. I'm here at the Rwanda Mining Week. My company is Extractive Insight. I'll just ask a very quick question to Mr. Shane. You mentioned about the critical mineral strategy. I've come here and I've believed without doubt that Rwanda is set to become the critical minerals hub for Africa. But I'm concerned. Tungsten is doing very well right now. You have a lot of money there. A lot of deposits you're mining as the biggest company here. Is there a way, now that you know this much deposits exist, for all of these companies to leverage on that and unlock a lot more financing for processing here? Because we might talk about a strategy, we might talk about batteries, but if we're not looking at very innovative ways of unlocking finance that brings that level of scale to this continent, and especially in Rwanda, then all of this is big stories, and you'll force the board to issue a strategy that there's no way of executing. So are there innovative thinking that you can do with the reserves that you have, the amount of money that you foresee making for the next 40 years to bring that money to today, to work for the strategy?
Thank you.
You want me to go first? That's a great question. And you said the word, the primary answer, you actually said it, is scale. So we need to scale these projects so that they are attractive to an external investor. That's first and foremost. We need to get the strategy right from a government perspective in terms of where Rwanda wants to head, what are the incentives, what are the drives, what are the end games. But one of the easiest things that Rwanda can change in terms of operating sites, I'm not talking about exploration, I'm not talking about looking for the next big thing. The easiest thing we can change right here and right now is how we process our product. So I'm going to use Nakabingo as an example. You mentioned tungsten. It's the largest tungsten mine in Africa, and it's got huge potential. We literally are throwing away, or I shouldn't say throwing away, we're not realising close to 70% of the tungsten that we're actually extracting out of the ground because we're not processing it properly. We're the largest tungsten producer in Africa, and we're still producing the tungsten through hand-picking it, through panning it, and through sluicing it. So Trinity's a long way down the path in terms of a DFS level study to bring in a 60 tonne per hour world-class tungsten processing plant. That'll include MGS, so multi-gravity separator, back end of the plant, as well as a forward standard gravity plant. But in terms of positioning us strategy-wise to attract that larger investment, and that's where government, I feel, plays a big role in this, and I will always go back to the pitch book is a fantastic thing, but I still feel as though we're missing an opportunity because, as Simon touched on, there's currently operating, looking at tin and tungsten at the higher level that are actually sitting on much better deposits down low. And that's not being realised and not being made public. And I think that's where that critical mineral strategy comes in. But to do that, we need to get our backyards right first, and that's mineral processing. And that is our biggest win, as well as changing mining methodologies and mechanising and modernising. But we do those two things in unison, and that will change in terms of that scale and external investment. There's no question in my mind.
If I go to Patrick's question now, we're not reluctant at all about exploring for lithium in Rwanda. I think, maybe it's a misunderstanding that what we're trying to present here today is that it's not all unicorns and rainbows because we've had a couple of successes with drilling on the lithium front. It's putting it into context that you got to look at the bigger picture. What are the risks? What are the uncertainties on the road ahead? And it's sort of marrying that into the current set of policies that the government has here towards refining and looking for that value-added process along the path. So it's trying to sort of just highlight that lithium needs to be processed and refined if you're in a landlocked country and you're looking to ship to international markets, unless you go to the point where you can process, refine, and then have some sort of manufacturing of the next stage that will tick the boxes with the OEMs or something along those lines. Not negative about it as a hard rock opportunity, nor lithium as a commodity. As a group, we're currently active on the ground elsewhere with the lithium exploration project as we speak. So no, lithium is still an interesting one. And I think, you mentioned the fact that you have the push towards electrification, particularly with the cars and the EVs, and you need the lithium-ion batteries. That demand curve is still going to be on the rise, but you do have the technologies, other technologies coming in on the batteries. So lithium-ion batteries may not be the predominant battery that's used for storage and electrical storage in cars. As Shane sort of said, he worked on a vanadium redox flow battery company in the past. But you've got other technologies. You've got sodium-ion batteries coming in, which are using sodium carbonate, and sodium carbonate is far less expensive than lithium carbonate. And I think an interesting thing to end with was something I was reading the other day, and it referred to a book written in 1870 by Jules Verne, the French novelist, to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where he's referring to a submarine called the Nautilus. And the Nautilus was powered in his book by a sodium electric battery. So that's visionary for you, and that was 150 years ago. So, technology, it's an interesting thing.
Thanks for that. And as we share our closing statements, aside from the critical minerals strategy that Shane has broadly shared, what is the one thing, if each of you could tell us, what is the one thing that Rwanda or the region need to do to secure its position in the global lithium and critical minerals value chain? I'll start with you.
I think I'm lucky because I'm the first, because the strategy that Shane mentioned seems to be very right and strategically valued approach to go forward to the community of lithium supplying countries.
Okay. Simon, other than the strategy?
I would like to see a more open approach to permitting and licensing for companies, so that when you have opportunities such as announcements about a lithium discovery or some processing advancement in country, that you can ride on that wave and get investment into the country. And, it's fine, you've got the pitch book, but that's only 10 projects. If you want to develop, say, the lithium field, you need more licenses out there, you need more people exploring, you need more investment, and that in turn will lead on to training and skill development as well.
Thank you. Shen?
I think I have a saying that it's nice to walk before you run, and I think we need to get scale and investment right first in order for us to develop these projects to the level that are going to be attractive outside of Rwanda and to the global resource community. We need to get the scale right. To do that, we need to get our mining methodologies and our mineral processing right. To do that, we need the investment.
Thank you. Thank you. Please help me appreciate our panelists. Thank you for sharing your insights. I think that wraps up this panel discussion. We're going to have a group photo, and then right after we'll transition to a very exciting part as we go for lunch.